All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me just grab my beer real quick. All right. All right. Make sure the chat is working. All right, all right. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. Let me know in the chat. Everything's good. You know, per the usual. All right. Welcome, welcome. Music should have stopped by now, or at least I hope it did. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. And it's funny because the very last chart that I was looking at was JP Morgan. So that's actually kind of fun. That's actually kind of funny right now. We're going to go over all that stuff here. No worries. Go ahead and get everything set up here real quick. Make sure my windows are good. Everything is rocking. Let me know in the chat. You guys can hear me all right. All good. Ancient Alien is in here. What's going on, man? Appreciate you joining the stream tonight. Gonna go ahead and get started. Let's see. Man, things have been just crazy all over the place. So where's a good place to start here? I guess a good place to start is just some of the most recent things that have been going on in the space. I'm just going to go over a couple of those things real quick, like in terms of headlines and stuff. I know the big one was Justin Suntron offering to buy all of the Bitcoins from the US government. So that's kind of Justin Suntron, man. This dude is just relentless. Like, I don't know if it's an attention thing. I don't know if this is just a sticking it to the man thing or whatever. This man is always in everybody's business. So I guess recently the news was, let me see if I can find it. It was Watcher Guru that I saw posted the headline, and it was a pretty big headline. Social Security funds, Twitter, dev. Okay, yeah. So the U.S. government said, okay, from the Silk Road debacle, most of you guys probably weren't even in the space when this happened. This was a very, very, very long time ago. Silk Road was, just a little background information for those of you guys that don't know real quick. Silk Road was a platform on the dark web, deep web, whatever, that a guy named Justin Albright founded. And he was kind of like the poster child for things that you're not supposed to do with Bitcoin. So long story short, they indicted him, they arrested him, they put him in jail for like 1,000 years, like literally like I don't know what the exact time was. It was a very, very, very unreasonable sentence. That's like the whole like free Ross, hashtag free Ross thing is. I actually met his parents at a convention a long time ago. It was like 2019 in New York. But basically he invented Silk Road. Silk Road was shut down, obviously. They locked him up for like facilitating the buys and sells of like a whole bunch of like illegal wares and stuff on the dark web. And the US government had originally confiscated and seized 41,500 Bitcoin. Today, that's valued at like over $1 billion. So it's like 1.2 or $1.5 billion. Kind of crazy. It's a lot of money. So today, when the government was like, okay, we're going to sell off in 3 different major cells the 41,500 Bitcoin that we confiscated. And the same day that the US government announced that, Justin Sun came along today. He's the founder of Tron. And he said, okay, I'm going to give you an offer. I will buy all 41,500 Bitcoins for a 10% discount. Give me an over-the-counter deal, right? For 10, I'll buy them for 10% off, but I'll buy all of them. We're still talking like over $1 billion deal. I just think it's really funny because Justin Sun Tron is kind of like always like inserting himself in stuff. That's kind of like what he does. So yet again, let me just bring up the, here we go. Why is my screen black? My screen shouldn't be black. Why is my screen black? Why is my screen black? The fuck? Display. There we go. Had to fix it. I don't know what was going on. The wrong screen was selected. Anyhow, so this is that news headline right here, and I thought that this was just really funny because literally right after the US government was like, okay, we're going to auction off we're going to sell the 41,500 Bitcoin, $1.18 billion. So about 1.2 billion, tons of money. Justin Sun Tron, we all know he's good for it. And he goes, okay, I'm going to make an offer to buy all of them from the US government at a 10% discount OTC. I thought that was really crazy. Again, just always like kind of inserting himself into whatever is, whatever big headlines going on. So that's kind of one thing that happened. That's really big. One of the other really big things that happened that, I'm not really going to bring up any of the like headlines for it or whatever, but another one of the really big things that happened this week was, and this relates to more of the legacy market stuff. So I guess if you're watching this after the fact, like feel free to skip ahead like 2 to 5 minutes. So we've got kind of a situation going on with the United States dollar as the world reserve currency. And I already know what you guys are thinking. God damn it, Cobra. We don't want to hear about the legacy stuff, but just hold on. It's, this ties in. Okay. I promise this is important, especially if you live here in the United States, right? So here's kind of the deal with that. Russia, China, Syria, Turkey, I believe Iran and Afghanistan, and then France actually made their first OPEC purchase in the Chinese yuan. So basically what's happening is you've got all of these pretty major world powers like, India, Syria, Iran, like these aren't like small countries, right? Like these aren't like, oh, well, it's like, some country we've never really heard of or fucked with, offering to, do these purchases in the Chinese yuan. The reason why this is such a big deal is because as more and more countries agree to be doing this or enter into this accord that the East is founding, the reason why that's an issue is because we all know here at home that the U.S. Secretary and the Treasury Department, they're never going to be buying oil in Chinese dollars. They've pretty much conditioned us over the last 100 years to consider China and Russia and everybody in the East as an enemy. I can promise you that the U.S. government is never going to pay for oil in U.S. dollars. That poses a really big deal for the United States. And the reason why is because we are, or at least for the last 50, 100 years, we're an importer. Okay. We're not really an exporter of goods. Obviously, we export stuff, but not nearly as much as the stuff that we import. Right. So that's the reason why that's such a big deal. Most people are not paying attention to that. Obviously, if most countries, kind of shift towards using, the yuan for major purchases or importing and exporting of goods and stuff like that, it's not going to mean that the US dollar is gone and it's kaput, right? Like there's tons and tons of currencies for tons of governments and nations out there that they're doing just fine for their own countries. And I think that that's probably what we're going to end up transitioning to. Now, the reason why I said stick around, and this relates to cryptocurrency, is that's kind of the reason why we've seen Bitcoin like start gradually keep pushing upwards and upwards, right? Is just simply because of the fact that people are starting to shy away from the US dollar. What happens if the US dollar isn't so widely accepted anymore, right? If you're an investor in the United States, what do you do with your money? Where do you put it that it's safe? Well, you can buy physical gold and silver, but you can't really travel with that, right? You can't really invest physical gold or silver either. Like you can buy stocks in gold or silver mining companies. You can own it physically in a safe, but you can't travel with it. It's not very easy to spend. Like you can't go to a 7-Eleven or a corner store or gas station or whatever and be like, oh yeah, sure, let me buy my bag of Doritos. Here's a silver coin, right? Like no one's going to accept that. It's just not those things are just not widely accepted in our modern day and age. So I honestly think that half the reason, or a good portion of the reason why we've been seeing Bitcoin rally so much, is simply because of that. Investors globally, and especially here in the US, are starting to get a little bit worried about like, okay, well, where exactly can I put my money? If the banks are starting to domino, and the banks are starting to fail, obviously the dollar is super inflated at this point. It's only going to keep getting devalued in terms of its real intrinsic value. What do you really do with your money? I really think that that's a very large portion of why we've been seeing Bitcoin for the last couple of months just start going up. And again, for those of you that are watching in the chat, let me know what your thoughts on this are. If you're watching it afterwards, go ahead, leave a comment down in the description below. Like, what implications do you think that this really has? Especially if you're like a US citizen or somewhere else in the world. Especially if you're somewhere else in the world, I'd love to hear your take on this. Because if you're somewhere else in the world, naturally, that means that your country isn't operating as a currency that is the world reserve currency. So what implications do you guys think that that's going to have long term for the US dollar or for US citizens here at home? I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that. But we're going to go ahead, really start the stream off. Appreciate all of you guys joining. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys can pretty much follow all those links down in the description below. Follow at Venom Algo. I'm mostly on Twitter. That's where I post my public trades, as well as here. So make sure that you smash that like and subscribe button. Help me out with the algo. And besides that, this is Friday night, beers and Bitcoin. Grab your beers, grab your whiskeys, whatever you're doing. I'm still sipping on these Michelob Ultra golden pilsners, man. These things are like really light and refreshing. They're just awesome. So with that said, I hope that you guys are having an awesome week. And first, I'm going to just go ahead, bring up the chart, kind of go into some of the questions that I was getting this week, specifically today about trading. And since I mostly touched on the fundamental stuff, I like to just kind of get that out of the way at the beginning of the show, just so that people that are watching this afterwards, like they kind of know now that they can just skip 5 or 10 minutes ahead and just kind of skip that stuff if it's not really something that you're here for. But I really do implore you, if you don't pay attention to fundamentals of what's going on in the broader market sectors, it might be something that you might want to turn your attention to, because a lot of these things really do affect the digital markets. And I know that that's primarily what you guys are here for, but it really does kind of matter sometimes. So I'm not going to dig too much deeper in any of that stuff today. I know that when I said I switched to the chart, the first chart that I had up was JP Morgan. I've personally been really paying attention to the banks. Again, if you guys want these watch lists, I believe these are public. Hold on. So I'll copy this link and put it in the chat here for you guys, if you guys really want this, just so that you guys can have it. This is my huge watch list, and I have it separated by sector, right? So stocks and services, stocks in consumer, industrial and manufacturing, communications. These are all the financials. So like your banks and hedge funds and, institutions and stuff like that. Then we've got my little tech section, my Forex section, and then just like government bond yields. And then, your commodities and your indices up here and stuff. So that link for you guys is right up in there. Somebody chatted and I can't see the message. I really wish that you would put it in the chat for right now, but I can't see it. If I shy away from this page, I don't want my stream to die. I don't want to break the stream. So if you can copy and paste that into the chat, if it was a question, I'd be more than happy to answer it for you. I just can't see it right now, because if I press the back button, my stream is going to die. So, but anyway, let's go ahead. We'll switch over the list here. Go ahead, go over to my main list, and we're going to switch and take a look at Bitcoin. So the first question that was in my DMs today that I want to address was, somebody messaged me and they were like, well, you've been trading pretty well, like you've been trading in pretty high frequency for this whole week. How come you didn't trade today? That's kind of a two-part answer. The first reason would be it's Friday. I don't like opening up new positions on a Friday afternoon. That's not really my thing, especially at the beginning of a new quarter. Okay, so that's kind of another thing that the hell. That's kind of a thing that also ties again more into legacy markets. At the beginning of a quarter, when you've got that many options and futures for, a quarter and a week and a day, like kind of all expiring at the same time, and you have that extra layer of those quarterly things expiring, it's just something that I tend to avoid. There's a couple things that I tend to avoid, just days in general that I avoid trading anything. And those are triple witchings. If you don't know what that is, I'm not really going to get into it. If you just Google search triple witching, I'm sure that the very first search result will be an Investopedia kind of definition of what a triple witching is. I don't do triple witching days. I don't do end of quarters, and I don't do non-farm payroll days. Usually those things are once a quarter or once, like a month. So I know that most people would also say, oh, I never trade an FOMC day. If you guys are new to the channel, again, make sure that you smash that like and subscribe button. I always live stream the FOMC and the press conference afterwards. It's like a 2 or 3 hour ordeal. It's kind of like a 3-hour stream extravaganza, and I live scout the whole thing. So those of you guys that have been around on this channel for a while and been following me, you guys know that. I always try and scalp those days. Those are some of the days that I make my most money. So I never shy away from that volatility, especially if the markets have been flat and we experienced a move, like a really large move in either direction, like a week or two before that tends to happen. So So, that kind of, I mean, that's pretty much the question that I had in my DMs was, well, you know, how come you didn't trade today? Dude, it's Friday, man. Like, I'm not really trying to get into, if I was already in a position, let me clarify that. If I was already in a position, especially if it's a winner or like I open it up on like Wednesday or Thursday and that shit's still running, especially if it's in profit, like I'll do some position management like on Friday afternoon or during the stream and plan on leaving the position open if it's in profit. But I'm probably not going to be opening up a brand new position on a Friday at the end of a quarter with non-farm payroll and a whole bunch of manufacturing and consumer numbers coming out. That's not really my style. Not a new position. Anyway, like I said, if I'm in a position already, that's what's up. But so we're going to start with the weekly first. And I know this is something I went over in my video earlier this week, again, on the channel. That should be like the featured video on the top of my page is my little Bitcoin analysis shorts. Not really too much to go over here. I mean, we're basically getting another doji here. Sure, we've come up, maybe $400 or $500 since our weekly open, but we're just still not able to break above this very, very important level here at 28,850. We have not been able to close above that here. It's going on 2 weeks now. Our last weekly candle was just terrible, just straight hardcore doji, was not looking good. So I'm not going to go over why and how I have this chart laid out the way I do. I've done that in other streams. You guys are more than welcome to, go back and watch those previous streams of how I broke down these ranges with their midlines and their subsections and everything. This more relates to just overall like macro structure. Okay, so I'm not really going to dive too deep into that. But if we really start getting into the nitty gritty here, we just really, really, really have not been able to push and close above this very important level here. So it's a little concerning to me, but at the end of the day, if you're a bear or you're looking for shorts, I mean, damn, like this is, in my opinion, this is, if you're gonna short, this is probably the area to be doing it in, right? I mean, we're retesting a very, very major level, anywhere between here and 30K in this $2,000 range. Very major level of supply. Like we're talking historical multi-year, right? These levels go back to 2021. It's 2023, guys. This is as best of a short opportunity if you're still bearish as you're going to get here. Now, contrary to that, you could say, okay, maybe we have some kind of a head and shoulders play here for a reversal. That is 100% correct. If you're into basic charting patterns on macro like that, I tend to not really take classical charting patterns into that big of an account on macros just because it's like such a long amount of time. But I mean, in general, it's there. I mean, there's a pretty clear neckline here. Technically, we broke above it. You'd be looking to enter around here for some kind of a retest and then planning on closing above this major 28,850 area. So that's pretty much all I'm really going to say about that. The other thing that I'll bring up, again, I mentioned this in the YouTube short, not the YouTube short, just the short analysis, whatever, about this OBV. And to me, this just does not look good. Price, higher highs, higher lows, compared to the previous price structure, and just consistently lower lows and lower highs over here and breaking down out of a bullish channel. Normally not the kind of thing that you want to see on the macro. So I'm really keeping a very, very, very close eye on this 28,850 level. If we don't see a week close above that and, see the next week after that start really pushing up higher to see some consistent daily closes above this level, it's a very difficult position to be in. Like I want to be super bullish so bad, but at the end of the day, I kind of have to take this in account and realize, damn, between 28 and 30,000 is a major area of supply here. Like there's people that have been trapped since here during this UST and Luna crash. This was our FTX crash. Our FTX crash was like tiny compared to this, which was like Luna and UST and Three Arrows all just, capitulating. I mean, breaking back above this level would be massive. That is at the point where I would be super, super bullish in terms of like, I am buying all dips. Every dip I'm buying with leverage. I'm holding my spot positions from 15K. I'm not selling them at all. And for the most part, that's pretty much what my plan has been. So if we come down to the daily chart here, I started averaging in this year. I started, and I guess you could consider 2022 as well, because this was kind of back here. But this is where I started accumulating, all back through here in the lower parts of these ranges. When we were getting these dips, I was buying all of this 18K, 18K, 18K. We dipped down. You bet your bottom dollar I was buying 15K, like anything below 20K. And I'm going to be accumulating spot, right? So for the most part, I've pretty much been riding those spot positions. And what's really crazy is last week, I said, holy crap, our OBV is still ranging inside this very, 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 very tight consolidation that was first established way back here. And I said, okay, I'm not really trying to take any longer term positions until this breaks one way or the other. I remember saying that last week on the stream. So it's been a whole nother week and we're still ranging in this range. So with all the back and forth, and we had an FOMC rate decision in here, tons of wicks back and forth in each direction. We're at a historical yearly support and resistance level. This is kind of like the make it and break it area for Bitcoin, right? Like this is the time where we really, really, really want to see breaking and consistent closes above the supply zone. This is where we really want to see our OBV start turning around and trending back to the top side, right? After seeing some long form consolidation here. And so far, we're just not seeing that. It's just a lot of back and forth. We're, for the most part, in a really tight range between 27 and 28.5, just a very small $1,500 range here, back and forth, ping-ponging. OBV is flat. RSI is kind of hovering. Even our momentum has just been, kind of dying off here. Still bullish, which is good. I like to see that. But our volume per bar just really died off here. Like as soon as we hit this top, the volume just really took a plunge. And, until we start seeing the volume per bar and the OBV start really trending in one direction or the other, for now, it's just this chop, low volume, very, very low momentum, $1,500 range, very range bound, and just trying to make the best of it. So that kind of goes back to that question I got earlier today in my DMs, which was, well, how come you're not trading? Well, this is why I'm not trading. Because on the 4-hour chart, this is what we're seeing here, right? Like this is poop. I don't want to trade this. Right? In general, this is our range on the 4-hour time frame, and it's just been like really, really back and forth, very, very choppy in here. Trading this with leverage for most newer traders has probably gotten you chopped up. I know that during the week, again, make sure that you guys are following me on Twitter. Obviously, I've been posting all the positions that I've been taking. I've gotten lucky. Most of my trades have been winners, but it's because I've been waiting very patiently for these extremes to kind of be tapped before I take a position. This afternoon, before I left to, go run errands and pick my daughter up from daycare and go have dinner with my wife and my daughter. I did attempt to short this today. And throughout the day on these 3 candles, look at what happened. Back and forth and back and forth and back. And literally when I came home, after leaving that position open for a full 8 hours, the position was still sitting at my entry. Didn't make a very significant move in either direction, like not enough worth it to trigger any of my other bids or asks or anything. Not enough to really be like, oh yeah, I'm going to close half profit here. So I was in like a quarter size position on lower leverage, and the price just kept coming right back to my entry. So when you get really sustained, just sideways price action like this, you get a lot of dojis back to back. Not a very good trading environment to be in. Again, we're at the end of a quarter. We're starting a new quarter. So, all of those factors play in as well. So there honestly really isn't too much in terms of Bitcoin for me to be going into. When price action is like this and it starts getting really stagnant, I mean, that's when we start coming down to lower timeframes and try and get an idea of, where exactly could this price be going, right? So if we make this disappear and only on the 4 hour and above, okay, 4 hour and above, where's the other one? Just down here. Make that also 4 hour and above, take it off of the minute chart. And now we can kind of zoom in a little closer and kind of look at our more immediate, range that we have. So this is volatility. This would also like manipulation. This is also like, I would consider like manipulation or volatility down here. So, I mean, if you're really going to try and draw ranges on this on the very small time frame, you're probably going to be drawing something around here like this, right? Okay, you've got to throw over. Maybe you could come up here with this and say, okay, from this wick to the top of this wick or whatever. It looks like we touched it again here. It looks like that lines up, pretty decent. And then to the downside, I would just simply copy and paste this and have something like this down here. Okay. Wick, maybe just below. Didn't really close below that. So yeah, it's got some confluence historically. Obviously, this would be green, those of you guys that are like, visual learners or whatever. And that kind of clearly defines a midline here where you've got like, a lot of chop and volatility, rejections and stuff around a midline. Let's just make this one and we'll make this, sorry, I'm jumping around. We'll make that dotted. Okay. So this is where things really start testing people's patience, right? So if I end up seeing a range that's pretty well defined where, okay, clearly this is a top end, this is manipulation or volatility or a liquidity grab or cascade. This is where it starts really testing people's patience because I tell people over and over again, like, don't be getting into a position on these overall midlines, right? Because what most people do is like they see this and they're like, oh man, like fuck that, I'm going to come down to a 3-minute chart. And they're trying to play just this noise. And it's just not a good idea. It's a really good way to get knocked out of a lot of positions. And then you start getting into this like emotional mental battle of like, oh man, like I longed and it immediately went down. I'm just going to try and knife cut. Then it goes down further. You close it at a loss. Now you're at 2 losses. Then you say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to wait to long it until I have confirmation. You get one candle close above. You thought you waited for confirmation. You long it, and then it immediately, dunks down on you again. And this is just a lot of really, really bad chop. I typically don't go ever below a 15-minute time frame. Once you get a couple days worth of candles, you get a really clearly defined range, and then you can more accurately make a decision if you have patience to get into a position that's going to yield you more results, right? So, for instance, this most recent price action, like if you were going to be longing, right? Clearly, you've got this defined area down here from before, right? So on this dip, you could have said, okay, I want to enter on this wick. I want to enter on this wick. I want to have a third entry. You'd probably scroll back left at this point and say, okay, here, look at this wick over here, right? You start laddering your bids, like whatever those may be. Maybe you got one down here or whatever as like a last resort bid, and you ended up nailing that. For those of you that actually caught that, congrats. Like that would have been a really, really good snag. But for me, usually I use these tiny areas of consolidation. So mine would have actually been like here or something. You put a stop below this range. And if your stop was here, you actually would have been safe on that. If your stop was around here, you would have been safe. But in these kinds of ranges, you have to be patient and you have to understand that there's going to be volatility on these lower time frame ranges that are going to cause throwovers. They're going to cause throw unders. They're going to be stop hunts. This is why we ladder bids. Okay. This is why we use lower leverage and we don't enter into a full size position on just one shot. Because as soon as you do that, if you would have been like, oh, well, it came down to here, let me enter right here and I'm going to 25x long the shit. But you got stopped out here and then the price reversed. And then you get mad and you're like, oh, well, fuck it. It broke these highs. I'm going to fucking long up here. Next thing you know, you're longing right under resistance. That shit rejects and then starts chopping and you're locked into a position. Now you're trapped. Now you're a long that's trapped and you're probably underwater at that point. Being patient and waiting for these range touches and being able to ladder your bids effectively is key when the price is going sideways. I personally make the majority of my money in choppy sideways price action. I am not a very good trend trader. I know that sounds crazy. How could you possibly be long-term profitable if you can't trade, with the long-term trend? That's not to say I don't trade with the long-term trend. I do, but I do that on my spot bids, right? Like no leverage. There's no funding that's going to affect me. I'm just buying spot really, really fucking low at a macro bottom or as much of a macro bottom that I can estimate. And then just fucking holding it for like 3 or 6 months and seeing what happens. When it comes to 15-minute charts and you're trying to do this on lower time frames, that's where it's going to get a little more difficult because it just requires a little more patience. But as long as you can have that patience, you'll probably end up doing a lot better using lower leverage, breaking up your bids, so that you can average down a little bit, being okay with your setup or your trade, going and experiencing some drawdown. I think that that's a really big key factor too, is as soon as people's positions get into the red, they fucking panic. I guess my best advice to people that do that is if you're panicking immediately or very soon after the price like moves against you, it probably means one of two things. It means that you're either abusing leverage and you're just way over leveraged, like way more than you should be for your account size, or it means that you did not have a trade plan. Like you didn't have a risk management strategy when you entered into that trade. It was like an impulse buy, right? Like you're scrolling through on Amazon and you hit an impulse buy. You already bought it, but rent's coming up or something. And it's like, holy shit, like, why did I just buy that like $3,000 fucking thing when I've got to, pay rent in a week or what? And you're like sweating it. If you're sweating your trade, it's because you either went in with too much size, you went all in on one entry, or you had no risk management or you're over leveraged. It's one of those four things. Usually it's a combination of those things where it's like you used too much size, you were over leveraged, and it was an impulse, like all at the, an impulse buy all at the same time. Try not to do that. I've blown up accounts doing that. I mean, I've been trading for 12 years. It's not like I'm a perfect trader and I've never blown up accounts, right? Like I've blown up accounts too, especially when I was, first starting and stuff. And usually it was because I was either over leveraged, oversized, or a combination of those four things. Like I went all in on that one entry, price moved against me. I was forced to close out so I didn't get liquidated. And then immediately the price reversed and it would have been a winner. And then I ended up chasing and revenge trading. It's very hard to get over the emotions. What's your preferred time frame and top 5 indicators? So my preferred time frame has to be the 1 hour, without a doubt. 100%. My time frame is definitely like that I really enjoy trading on, that I do most of my entries and exits on, is probably the 1 hour. In terms of charting, I'm usually doing my charting on the 4 hour or the daily. The reason for that is it just shows the overall trend better. Indicators tend to be a little laggy. So I get a better idea of where the trend is shifting if a trend change is starting to take place. And the 1 hour, conversely, gives me a more focused view of where the liquidity is going, if that makes sense to you. So like I'm really focused on volume and order flow. So I think for me, in terms of top 5 indicators, I mean, most of them are volume based. So there's a really good one by Spaceman BTC, I think. Let me bring up the other chart layout. I know it's here. So my volume PA chart layout. So let me take all this other stuff off. Take all this other stuff off, right? Okay, so I use this on the 15-minute chart. And the reason why is because I'm looking for bigger trend mean reversions. That's a really big part of me trading is top 5 indicators. How do I sum this up without making it complicated? So this key level, see, I don't want to just name this one indicator as one of my top 5 indicators because it isn't. It's just what it does, which is define order blocks. So like you can see here on the chart, right? Like we've got our previous week high, we've got our previous daily high, daily open, Monday open, weekly open. All of those are right on top of each other right now. Quarterly open. So you've got like 4 levels here on top of each other because it's a new day, a new week, a new quarter, right? But order blocks, right? So like your Monday high, weekly open, previous daily low, previous weekly low, Monday's low, like all of these different levels in here, right? There's tons. Look, previous monthly low, down here in a cluster, it looks like you've got your yearly open, current yearly low, and previous yearly low, like pretty much in a cluster down here around 16.5. So this is pretty much order blocks. Defining where the order blocks are is very important, especially on an inter-week scale. So I would definitely say that having something that's going to define the order blocks is probably one of my top 5. The volume weighted average price is definitely in my top 5. So now this also has, I'll take this off. This is volume weighted average price, but it also has standard deviations in it. Again, this is a custom indicator, so this has standard deviations, but volume weighted average price, very, very important. I use that definitely on a daily basis. The only reason why I have this 15-minute chart layout is so that I can really pinpoint my entries. But usually I'm looking and setting up my whole entry on the hour because I have better defined levels of wicks where there's like a lot of supply or demand. So that on the 1 hour chart, that's where I set up my position because I can more accurately figure out where I want to place my ladders to average into a position. Volume weighted average price, that's definitely top 5. Something with order blocks, that's definitely in a top 5. Time weighted average price too. Some people like this big argument over like which one is better, time weighted average price or volume weighted average price. I'm a big volume trader, and I mean you can see I always have the ticker tape, like the global ticker tape up here. I'm always watching that. Like order flow is a really big part of me trading. You can't really get too much into liquidity on like liquidations on TradingView. So I think another one of my top 5s then would be either this, which is our volume profiles. So this is going to show your naked points of control. Like that's where throughout the week or throughout the month, that the most liquidity for that day was traded. That's those yellow lines. The blue lines on the top and bottom is just the high and low for that day. So these are broken up in daily periods. And then these lines that extend all the way, those are naked points of control that haven't been satisfied yet. So those typically line up really well with liquidity pools and liquidations in terms of, Bitcoin, because it's very heavily centric around derivatives. But I think honestly, the biggest one for me, the most important one that I use is probably down here. And it's as simple as the OBV, the on balance volume. That's probably like my most used indicator. I know that I have RSI and MACD up on this time frame on this chart layout here. I mean, that's mostly just for just ease of explanation in terms of the momentum and stuff like that. Most people, when they learned how to use RSI, use it incorrectly, and they think that, up here is a sell and, down here is a buy or whatever. Sure, sometimes that's going to work out depending on what time frame you are. I mostly just use it for higher time frames like 4 hour and daily, and I look for those really major divergences to try and more accurately decide when the price could potentially be flipping over. But yeah, definitely OBV. I mean, that's definitely going to be one of my biggest ones. I mean, if the on balance volume, which measures spot, if that's not moving and it's trending sideways, that's not good. Like the all through here, like the price is just ping ponging. This OBV clearly shows that like there's no trend here. So I would probably use that the most in terms of like trying to figure out where the trend is going. How long are your average trades on the 1 hour? It really depends. I mean, on the 1 hour chart, I mean, like if I enter a trade and it moves immediately, like when I say immediately, I mean like that same day, right? Like before that day is out. And it moves. And I mean like on spot, like a move on spot, right? Like I'm not talking about like the leveraged percentage, right? Because that's all blown out of proportion. But like, let's say I enter a long here, right? And I got really lucky. And the same day it did this, right? Within 12 hours, it moved 5%. Oh, I'll leave that position open could leave that open for a week or more, depending. For me, entering on a 15-minute or a 1 hour time frame, it's always going to be defined for me as like an attempted scalp. Like I'm hoping that if I enter a position on the 1 hour chart, that the position is going to, it's going to move. Like if I'm entering that position on the 1 hour, it's probably because I'm seeing volume coming in, or I'm seeing volatility, or, I'm seeing the order flow drastically skewed to one side, like long or short, and I'm expecting the price to be moving right just then. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes it'll be a fake out. It'll move up like, 2% and immediately reject and come back down to my entry. That's more of like a trade management discussion. But at the end of the day, if I'm trying to get into a position, I'm hoping that it's going to, pop off, whether I'm long or short. I'm aiming for it to pop off within a couple hours. But like today, I got into a position this morning, and for the whole day, it was just back and forth around my entry, just, within a 0.5% or 1% around my entry on spot. I'm probably just going to close it out. Like it's not worth it paying the funding to leave the position open at that point for me. It just doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, the position could end up going against me. And then I'm even more negative because I had to pay funding to leave the position open, which sucks. So I guess for that, there's a lot of different aspects that go into it, but OBV would definitely be my favorite indicator. Probably number 1 or 2 in my top 5. And in terms of how long I would leave trades open on the 1 hour, it really depends how fast it pops off and how far, like if I really see like consistent momentum in the price, like if I'm seeing consistent price momentum and there's a lot of trajectory here and it's very obvious that this is going to be moving to the top side, like OBV is not choppy like this and it's making new high, like higher highs and higher lows. And I entered from like a good spot and it just starts taking off like, that day or early on the next day or whatever. That's the kind of trade that I normally end up turning into a swing position where I'll let the price move on spot, maybe 5, 6, 8%, close out like half, and then just set a trailing stop and just let that shit ride. And then depending on what exchange I'm trading on, I'll like start hedging, right? Like I'll start hedging short. It's like, okay, well, it looks like the volume might be starting to taper off here, or we might start, seeing the price start moving sideways, I'll leave the long open, and then either on a sub account or on the same account, if I can, depending on the exchange, that's when I'll start hedging that position going in the other direction as I start kind of seeing the momentum and the and the volume of that trend start kind of tapering off. So that's like a huge question I get is like, oh, well, how do you decide to take profit? How do you decide to take profit? It's like, how do you set your targets? Like, dude, I don't set targets. Like I stopped doing that years ago because it's fucking ridiculous. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. Like, clearly it's not a bad thing to be doing, right? Like, you want to have like some kind of a, like that you're shooting for, some kind of level or price that you're shooting for, or some kind of percentage, like for your P&L that you're shooting for. But at the end of the day, like, setting individual targets is a really difficult thing to do, because you could be waiting for that target forever, to the point where you entered a long and like you're still like down here, like you're still holding this long position, but now all of the volume is just tapering off here. You didn't make a higher high in the immediate trend, and you don't really have confirmation of if this is going to be playing out or not. So like, you had this really nice high here on the OBV. You're still hitting or surpassing those highs, but the OBV is trending lower. So now you've got this momentum kind of like trailing off. But if you're still holding long from like, in here or something, well, I mean, you let the price go all the way and then come back all the way to your entry. That's kind of counterproductive at that point. Now, that's the kind of thing that's going to be touch and go. Like, there's no way to learn this. It's just getting a feel for momentum and volume and figuring out how you can best, with other indicators in your trading strategy and risk management, how you can best figure out to be profitable in that scenario. I'm not saying volume trading is for everybody. Everybody's got their own trading style. If you try to copy mine or any other like, trader on, fucking YouTube or wherever, or Twitter, trying to copy someone else's style, it's probably not going to end up working out for you. I know that I tried to do that early on, like, oh man, this guy's really successful using this combination of indicators. Let me try and copy that. And it was just like not my thing. And it took me a few years to get comfortable with like my own style of, okay, this is how I want to trade. Like, I'm going to focus on volume and price structure, but then I'm going to throw in some indicators for confluence, right? And my biggest one is got to be these liquidity heat maps. I know I harp on these all the time, guys. Again, not sponsored, but shameless plug. If you guys want to help support the channel, all the links for High Block Capital are down in the description below if you guys want to check these out. I use this nonstop. Like, this is always up in my tabs. Always. always. This could potentially trend higher. It looks like we could see a small cascade up to like 29.6, which would be kind of big. So then we're really starting to flirt with 30K here. But if you zoom out and you look at the heat map, looks like those liquidations go up to 28.9. But if you look at the weekly look back period, now that picture really starts to change. And that's where you start seeing, okay, yeah, maybe we're really flirting with 30K up here. Huge block at 29.5, right? So like, if I'm looking to short, I'm not shorting now at this little price resistance. I want to be shorting here where, other shorts are getting knocked out. Like, when those other shorts are getting knocked out, that's where I want to be getting in, is when those other shorts are getting blown out because they shorted too early. They pulled the trigger too early, right? They jumped the gun. I want their stops to be my entries, right? So that's kind of how I use this. It's definitely a very, I'm not going to say it's easy to get used to this kind of analysis, like liquidity analysis and volume and order flow and stuff. It's definitely not for everybody. When it comes to volume, there's a lot of different tools that you can use. And when some people say that they're volume traders, it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm a volume trader and I look at this metric and it'll be like, oh, okay, I use, like for me, it's like, okay, I'm mostly using like OBV, price structure, and liquidity heat maps, right? And liquidations, right? Because Bitcoin is really highly leveraged. So chances are, if the price is trending up and there's a ton of liquidations up there, the price is going to keep trending up because that's where the liquidity is. In other markets, that's different. So that's not always going to be the same. But there's also other tools for that too. Like if you're more of a legacy trader, I know ExoCharts is like a really big platform. Like people love using that because there's like really, really good order flow tools on there. So if you're looking to get into order flow, let me know down in the comments below. Like if that's something that you want me to dive like in more depth into, like either in another stream or like just straight up, like I know that I told you guys, like, again, make sure that you smash that like and subscribe button, guys. I'm going to be redoing a ton of tutorials this year. If you guys want me to make a tutorial on just my, like just going through, okay, this is how I'm going to plan to take a position. This is how I'm going to plan to do it. If that's the kind of video tutorial that you want to kind of like see and understand the tools and my process for deciding when or when not to enter a position and or how I'm going to choose to lay my orders down to dollar cost average and build a position up, I will totally do that for you guys. That would be a pretty in-depth tutorial. I would try to keep it to like under 30 minutes, but that's a lot to go over in one tutorial. 29.4K equals 100x short. Oh yeah, man, fucking 100x short now from financial freedom. No, I'm totally just kidding. But this is totally, see what's happening right now? See this order book? And the price is just skyrocketing here, right? It's just skyrocketing. Why? I don't even need to look at the actual price chart moving to tell you that the price is going up because I have the ticker tape right here. I know it's just skyrocketing, and it's because we're eating through these liquidations up here. I can already tell you that just by looking at the order flow here in the global order books. I can tell you that. But again, this is something that like, it's like training your eyes, right? Like it's not something that it's not just going to click immediately. Like don't get frustrated if it just, oh man, like I'm just never going to be able to figure this out. Dude, guys, this took me years to get good at. It took me years to find my style. Yeah, see, look, I was right. Boom. Nice big candle up to the top side. Looked like we knocked out some shorts here. But again, derivatives volume, OBV didn't budge. Why? Well, because the liquidation cascade. Somebody placed a big buy order. It ate through all the shorts and liquidated some people. That's all that is. The OBV didn't fucking budge. It barely budged here. So if we close over this and we keep moving up, yeah, sure, I'll be interested. Do we have a confirmed close here on the MACD? No, not yet. This could reject and this X for the cross could go away. Waiting for confirmation. Very, very important. I really, really urge you guys to be waiting for confirmation. I have been streaming for an hour, but I did start like 5 minutes late. So I'm going to go for another few minutes because it actually looks like I'm getting tons of viewers now, actually. Like, would love to see it. So Ancient Alien, he'd love to see a tutorial on that. Psycho trading is always, I mean, yeah, it's like, it's really, really psychological. Like people, they see this and if they have the aggro trade up, they don't really know what's really going on, like the bigger picture things. They just hear all these buys coming in and they immediately like buy into this. And I can almost promise you before or right after I turn the stream off, even if this goes up a little further, I would be very, very hard pressed to say with confidence right now that this is just going to like rocket through here. That's a pretty big wick. There's a lot. I mean, from here to here, right? That's a lot to fill up here. Even 29 all the way up to 29. Well, I mean, it's only $200. Bitcoin moves $200, no problem. But in general, that's a pretty big wick to fill. Now, OBV here, again, this candle's not closed. It just opened up. You've got a whole hour to go on this candle, right? This is why I love using the 1 hour time frame. When you see big moves like that, waiting for confirmation is waiting to see, is this momentum going to be sustained? That's the confirmation that you're waiting for. Because if it is, then on that next candle, now, like let's say this candle closes up here, right? Now you have a really good defined order block here that broke these highs. Okay. You've got your breaker high here. This broke here. Okay. We closed above this candle. We closed above this candle. This is your breaker high for the trend. This would be the trend continuation. So if you're looking to enter, you've got a good entry here. You've got a good entry here. You've got a good entry here. And you start looking for these order blocks. Okay. And if you're scalping, you'd probably have a stop. Let me turn this off. You'd probably have a stop below here. Okay. Let's make that solid to differentiate it. These would be your entries. You'd be looking for some kind of a pullback. Okay. If you wanted to get into it, you could really measure it with a fib if you really wanted to. You really don't want to be laddering down below the 618, but this is, your last resort bid. You'd be waiting for some kind of a retracement, and then you would be expecting the price to continue that momentum upwards. And then if you start seeing divergence here after the move, that's when you'd be looking to close. Or, RSI starts peaking up here, maybe you take half profit. Maybe OBV didn't break these highs, even though it's making a higher high in price. So, damn, that's not a sustained, spot move. That was just a liquidation cascade. It just snagged liquidity. Let me close here and reverse, or just click the reverse button on your position to trade the other side of it. That's another strategy that you can use. There's really no right or wrong way to trading. There's no golden indicator or anything like that. That's not the way trading works, which is why I try to talk about so many different kinds of trading styles with you guys, so I can educate you the best I can. Because I've tried a lot. A lot of it didn't work for me. Some of it did. Some of it didn't. The things that I liked, I kind of took those, combined them with other things that I liked, and then made my own style. And that's now how I'm trading today. And I'm sure that this is going to continue to evolve over time, right? Because markets don't stay the same. They're constantly changing. They're constantly evolving. The volume, the amount of volume, the direction, the sentiment, it's always changing. The market caps, all of that stuff. In this case with Bitcoin, the dominance of Bitcoin compared to the rest of the digital ecosystem, there's so many variables in this, and the ecosystem will continue to change over time. But for right now, what I've been doing is really focusing just straight up on volume and order flow, focusing on the 1 hour chart, waiting for those confirmations, making sure that I have a really nice tight RR, like that trade that I just put up. Let's actually bring those back up here. And if you guys really want to measure it out, again, I encourage you guys to do this before you're planning a position. Make sure that if you're going to lay your bids right, and you're going to keep, this is where your main entry it wants to be. And then this is double down for a half size entry. And then this is another double down for a full size entry. Well, if you're doing that, let's see, your average entry would be about here. Here's your stop. You'd probably be looking at, I don't know, probably up here would be your first take profit. So, 4.5 or almost 5 to 1. That's a solid RR. Like if you can catch it, and successfully buy the dip on this, again, some of you that have higher risk tolerances, maybe you cut this bid and you put that third bid actually down here, right? That's another option. And then you can put your stop below these lows instead. So that way your stop would be a confirmed price structure breakdown. Okay. So that there's another strategy that you can do in there. If you did that, your RR is not as good, right? Let's see here. Probably about here would be your average. I'm guesstimating this. I'm not doing this by with math or whatever. Clearly you'd be using a calculator while you're doing this. I'm on stream. I'm not getting a calculator involved for this. Okay. But still not bad. 3 to 1. That's a solid trade. Anything over 2-to-1 is a pretty solid setup, right? So, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you guys can be doing this. So anyway, yeah, definitely let me know down in the comments. Like if that, I know Ancient Alien said that he'd be interested in that. It'd be great if I wasn't just making a tutorial for like one person. So if you guys really want to see my process, like my personal process of the tools I use, the timeframes I use, how I'm going about entering and exiting trades, picking my positions, laying down my bids. If you guys really want like an in-depth video of how I do that, I can make a tutorial doing that as soon as next week. But most of you guys here have been following me for a while, or you've been subscribed to the channel. Again, if you're not, make sure that you're smashing that like and subscribe button to, you know, help me out with the algo. But again, every FOMC, I live scalp those live every time, and you guys see my process for that. But it's kind of a different process because it's focused around like sustained volatility. So I guess it's a little different. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm probably going to end up making a tutorial on that, to be honest. I'm probably going to end up doing that. What's up, Cody? Good to see you, man. I see your hand wave. I see that. All right, let me know in the chat. Should I chug a beer to end the stream? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Should I pull a little swirly do and do it? Would be interested, especially, and now I'm getting all the engagement on the stream like right before I got to go. That's when I get the most viewers. Would be interested, especially to see the tools and such used. So some of those tools, Cody, are down in the description. Definitely the high block capital ones. I can go over that in more detail, but I'm pretty sure I also have a tutorial I already made on just that platform. It's a little outdated though. Like there's been a lot of changes to their platform since then, but yeah, I use that absolutely every day. Will you short right now if it hits 29.5? It already hit 29. Oh, 29.5. I thought you said 20. I read it as 28.5 because I'm so focused on this little area here. Why isn't this? Wait, how come this wasn't showing up on the? Oh, it just wasn't showing up on the 1 hour chart? That's kind of weird. Maybe I did that. Hold on. Yeah, we're just going to make these available on the 1 hour. This is like confusing the shit out of me. Hold on. And then this is another thing. Like you guys really got to organize your time frames. Really good friend of mine. Sorry, I'm just kind of fucking with my chart for the, I'll switch it so that you guys can see what I'm doing. But really good friend of mine, Nebraska Gunner. I do all of his video editing and stuff. He just released or is about to release. Don't quote me on that. I hope that he released the video already. But the next video that I just edited for him that he may have released already or is like releasing next week is a video on timeframes. So I have one of those as well. He went into better detail with his and kind of went into some examples of how he uses timeframes specifically for him. Obviously, this is going to be different for everybody, but I just edited a video for him that he's doing timeframes. So keep an eye out for that. I don't know if me and him are like friends, like co-friending each other with our channels. If we're not, maybe I need to talk to him about that since I kind of plug him on my own streams. But that's definitely a tutorial that he has coming. I try not to double up and like, he's been stealing a lot of my ideas. Bottoms up, cheers, LOL. I literally just got the notification of what, 28.5 hitting or him releasing a video on timeframes. Because if it was him releasing a video on timeframes, I'm just going to like Holy crap. See, and what's insane is like, I literally just said on this 15-minute chart, oh yeah, it's probably just going to come up to here and you're going to see a wicked rejection. Like that just happened. It just happened. So bottoms up cheers. I mean, yeah, I'm down to do the little swirly. The notification of me going live just came through. Oh, dude, that's disappointing. Oh man, I'm sorry about that. That kind of sucks. So I'm gonna have to get better at actually scheduling these. If you guys are subscribed and have the notifications turned on to the channel, I apologize. Like tonight I was like out for the better part of this afternoon and I didn't schedule this stream in advance. So that's actually my fault. I apologize for that, Cody. I also just started working with a marketing group that's helping just in general get my shit organized and all of that stuff. So I'm probably going to be better at that next time. But I obviously this ain't climbing all the way up here to hit 29.5 on stream right now. And honestly, if we climbed all the way up to 25, who asked me that? Well, you're short right now if it hits 29.5. So Block said that. Honestly, no, because what's going to happen is you're going to get really close to 30 and immediately everybody on Crypto Twitter is going to be yelling for 30K, 40K, 50K. And they're just going to have these like ridiculous price. Like a lot of people are going to like a lot of retail newer traders are going to be FOMOing into that. And it's going to push the price up and cause a cascade to just over 30K, like 31. You know what I mean? Like 31,000 or 30,500, right? Where all of the short liquidations are. Like everyone's waiting to short 30K, right? If I short 29.5, I get blown out when it hits 30. If I try to short 30, I get blown out in the group of all of the other liquidations that are going to get blown out over 30K because they shorted right at 30. I'd be waiting for higher than that. I'd be waiting for some kind of a liquidation cascade and for like a large, like this kind of nonsense, right? Like this is the kind of nonsense that I would be waiting for to try and short. Like I would just be setting alerts on TradingView, let them fucking sit there and maybe throw some stink asks down. If you guys know what a stink bid is, it's kind of like, oh man, here, let me just throw a stink bid way down here at 27.5, right? And it's just kind of sitting there forever. I'd be throwing stink bids at like 30, 31, 32 on like 1x or 2x leverage, small size, just throwing some stink asks. You know what I mean? Like some sells over there. But I mean, literally exactly what I predicted on the stream earlier within 15 minutes is already happening, right? Like it rejected huge. Now we're getting a huge move to the downside. This looks like it's going to end up being a bearish engulfing for right now. Order flow turned bearish immediately. Everybody that scalped these lows closed out here, caused a small cascade. I'm sure if we rerun this, it's going to show that a solid amount of 100x shorts just got stopped out up here. Which it looks like a good amount of them. Not all the way up, though. I don't think this move is done. I think we just snag this 100x and we move up to like 28.9 or 29K. But I mean, we'll have to see. Binance US is the best for stink bids. 5 to 10K scam wicks a few times a year. Well, Binance US is probably going to be going away. So that's probably not a thing. Binance US is probably going to be disappearing. If it hasn't already for like US customers, they're probably going to start like offboarding US customers because of everything that's going on with that. But we'll have to see. Let's come down to a 12-hour and check this out real quick. Yeah, I'm sorry that, man, it's like everyone's clamoring into the stream now. Just as I'm about to like stop the stream. I've streamed for like an extra 20 minutes. Damn. Yeah, so I got to get better. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so do me a solid. The more of you guys that like and subscribe and turn on the notifications to the channel, you're going to get notified like an hour or 30 minutes before the stream goes live, because I usually schedule them. Now today, that's my fault. I didn't schedule it, but in the future, that's how it's going to be. So turn on the notifications. That way, you guys don't miss it. Man, really clean here. So I wish I could like zoom in further, but I don't want to like wreck your eyeballs. Here we go. Okay. So see on this wick, how this popped up and it took this really nice, good, bright ass level of liquidity here. And then it immediately retraced and we just grabbed this, right? We just grabbed this liquidity here. We just got to stop that out. I can almost promise you the price isn't going to go down too much further. And we're probably going to come up and hit 28,925, 950. Can almost promise you that. And it's actually already like starting to move up a little bit. Like, and I think I had this in one of the tweets that I did. Was my whole thing was price always, when you start studying price always moves in the path of least resistance. When you're talking about liquidity, that term, like moving towards the path of least resistance, quite literally means where is there more liquidity, right? Like who's offsides? Are longs offsides and like massively over leveraged, or are shorts offsides and they're super over leveraged, right? And there's just way more shorts or way more longs, like way more than the other. Typically you see volatility start happening when like one is offsides to the tune of like 20 or 30 billion. Like in that range between 20 and 30 billion, either way, whether it's longs or shorts. Normally that's when you start seeing like some really big volatility. But just in general, I mean, this is really clean right here, right? Like it really doesn't get much more cleaner than this. Came up, snagged the liquidity, immediately retraced. There was new shorts coming in right here, or longs. There was new longs coming in right here. Boom, came right back. They long the top, it came right back, closed them out immediately. I mean, let me switch to the, look at that. I zoomed in as close as I could for you guys so that you guys can actually see this. And I mean, it doesn't get much more textbook than that. It literally popped up, took that huge liquidity and just immediately grinded back down and took this liquidity out immediately. And now it's popping back up to try and come up here and take the rest of it. Again, price flows in the path of least resistance in terms of trading an asset that is highly speculative, that's very, very highly leveraged, like Bitcoin. That literally translates to price is going to move in the direction where there's more liquidity. It's as simple as that. I did like a couple, not a couple threads, but there was like one tweet or a couple tweets that I did last week where, I mean, there was another very perfect storm situation like this that happened, except I was physically trading it. And I traded in speculation of something like this happening, and it worked out beautifully. It was awesome. I don't know, there's a lot of volume above 29K to break up. And if it flips 29.5, break up and retest, could trigger a 30K as a new support. You're 100% right. Yes. Look right here. Look at what's above here. You're talking 29.5. Look at where the next liquidity pool is. It's right here at 29.5. You're 100% correct. Now, pushing up to 30K on the lower time frame, right now that's a little more unclear. It's too soon to tell in terms of like derivatives volume with liquidations. But I can tell you right now, that's like the psychological number is 30K, right? So we already know if we start coming up and liquidating shorts and see some kind of cascade up to 29.5, I can promise you 30K is going to get tapped, but I'm not going to be shorting 29.5 or 30K. There's no way. I'm going to wait for it to go higher and see a higher cascade before I jump in to some kind of short prematurely, because if you're going to fight the trend, like fighting the trend to the top side in a very strong bullish move is the same exact thing as trying to catch a knife to the downside. Like it's just something that you want to avoid. Normally those things like risk management just out the window, right? Like it's not going to be awesome for you. You're going to end up getting liquidated. You're going to end up getting stopped out. Then it starts fucking with your head. You get up in your emotions and you start revenge trading and pushing all the fucking buttons. 100x, up only, right? Like it's just not good. You get too much in your head. It's too much of a psychological thing. So fighting the trend, typically not good. Again, this is why, like for this weekend, like I'm just not really trading this. It's a Friday. It's the end of a quarter. It's the end of a week. I don't want to open up a new position before a weekend anyway. This is already on these two candles, like some seriously scammy price action. I bet you on a 30-minute or a 1-hour chart, it's basically a doji. Yeah. It's pretty much a doji just liquidating everybody on both sides out of their positions right now, just knocking everybody out on the weekend, like kind of sucks. In general, it's low volume on weekends, and it's just like typically pretty scammy price action. It's been like that for a while. Friday nights, markets close, man. I mean, it's just like, it's not awesome. Even in Forex, like a lot of people think Forex markets are 24/7. They're not. Currently they're open, and they're open on Saturday, tomorrow, or they closed. Sorry. Let me correct that. Forex markets are also closed. They close at the same time on Friday that regular legacy markets close in New York Eastern Standard Time. However, Forex markets open back up on Sunday at 4 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, London open. 4 a.m. I think with daylight savings time, it's 4 a.m. Eastern London time is when Forex markets reopen. Maybe for London open, there's some volatility, but in general, I don't know. I stopped trading London opens a long time ago because it really started fucking with my sleep schedule. Like I could make a lot of money doing it, but oh my God, it was brutal. It was really, really brutal. Either having to like wake up at 3 a.m. or like stay up until 4 a.m. and then trade for like 3 or 4 hours and then finally pass out, and like then your whole sleep schedule gets jacked up. It's really brutal unless you know that there's like guaranteed money to be made. I don't recommend doing that, especially newer traders. It's not worth losing the sleep over. I'd rather just sit out on the weekend for real and chill with the fam, drink a couple beers. All right, so we're going to get into it. I know that my wife is not going to condone this, but it has been voted that I chug a beer on stream. No, I'm not going to do like Trader Main's stream and Rookie XBT and fucking do a shoey. Okay, I'm not going to do all that. London has been where the moves always start lately. I couldn't keep that schedule either. Yeah, no, it's incredibly difficult, man. Cody, very difficult to keep that schedule. Very, very difficult. Again, if you know that it's like if you're good at trading non-farm payroll days, or you're really good at trading like weekly opens and like analyzing what's been going on in like the broader, like global economic kind of macro view of if you're really in tune with that, like I used to be really in tune with that, and then I kind of slowed down on Forex. But if you get to the point where you're really proficient in seeing that kind of stuff, or like you see where it's like, okay, this is probably going to gap up on London open because, and you've got like hard evidence, like this number came out, this number came out, this number came out. There's a gap here on the CME. This is going to have, if you know, and you have a very strong conviction in a couple trade setups, and of course you can play these other ways, right? Like if you long Euro USD, you can short USD JPY, right? Like it's just common sense. Like if you're trading a pairing that's trading against the US dollar versus the dollar that's trading against something else, you can inverse those two pairings and make money both ways on different pairings. That's kind of the way it works. That's why people make a lot of money in Forex. But if you've got a very, very high conviction in a setup because you're really in tune with the markets, 100%. I mean, once in a while, yeah, fucking stay up and smash that button, man, and make the money. But without being really in tune with those markets, it's not worth it. I mean, what are you going to make? Like 30, 40 pips, maybe 50 pips off of it? Like, not really worth it. Yeah, so we're going to chug a beer on stream. I think I'm going to have to Yeah, this is like almost full. I literally cracked this and took 2 sips during stream. Look how full that is. So this is actually going to be kind of rough. I don't think I've swirlied a beer in a while, but we're gonna go for it. I'm probably gonna spill this shit all over the place. My chair is all the way down. All right. Ah. Whew, my face got red. Oh, I almost got it. There's a little bit left. It's like fuck it, whatever. I'll finish it. Almost did the whole thing. I like left the backwash in there. Damn, that's like a. I'm gonna have to get myself and Austin and friends to like cut that part. Excuse me, to cut that part out of the stream. Block is laughing like shit. After a liquidation cascade, probably 31. Yeah, probably 31-ish, dude. Oh man, see, that's the only thing that I hate about chugging beers. Like, there's so much bubbles that like, blah. Damn, I actually can't believe I just did that on stream. I took that shit like really, really quick too. That's the first time I've chugged a beer like that in a while. Man, is that so? I don't know. Let me know in the comments or in the chat. Is that going to have to be like a weekly thing? Like I finished the stream with like chugging the rest of the beer if I bitched out and didn't finish it? I think that should have to be a rule. Like if Cobra doesn't finish his beer normally on stream, then fuck it. He has to like chug the rest of the warm beer before the end of the stream. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. So the fucking bubbles got me so bad, bro. That was actually really awesome. I'm loving it. I'm actually probably going to like cut that little piece of the stream out and like use that for promoting the replay. So if you guys got in here late, once I finish streaming here, you guys can go back and watch the beginning. Probably the first 5-10 minutes is going to be legacy stuff. So if you guys aren't really into that stuff, you guys can probably skip the first 5-10 minutes or whatever. I don't know if it's going to automatically add chapters in. I'm still experimenting with that. So we're going to kind of see how that goes throughout. But again, let me know in the comments below if there is anything specifically that you guys want to learn or anything that kind of like sparked a question or, man, I really wish you would make a tutorial on that. Just let me know down there. Make sure that you smash the like and subscribe button. Help me out with the algo. Really appreciate it. Make sure that you're following @VenomAlgo on Twitter. I'm going public beta. I believe the tweet was actually incorrect. I think I misfired that tweet. Public beta is actually going to be on April 3rd. But really super simple to join that. If you kind of want a heads up, go to astrobit.io, register, make an account, totally free, get into the Discord, and then just follow the instructions in the Cobra Venom channel. You know, read all the pinned messages and you got it. But besides that, would be interesting. Your strategy is short or long. Yeah. So getting down into like physically opening positions and stuff. I believe Cody also mentioned that, or Ancient Alien, I think, as well as Cody mentioned they'd like to see that. So if that's going to be like a requested thing, I'll totally end up doing a tutorial for that next week. Just as long as I don't have too much other stuff going on. But besides that, really appreciate you guys hanging out for the beers and Bitcoin. The beer is now gone. And I will see you guys next time. I hope that you guys all enjoy your weekend. This is Beers and Bitcoin with Cobra Trading. And until next time, take it easy, guys.